Michelle. I am the Chief of Staff for Supervisor Joel Engardio. Thank you for having me tonight. I was invited to present on the two ballot measures that were sponsored by our office and co-sponsored by Supervisors Safai, Melgar, Stephanie, and Dorsey. There are two ballot measures that I am going to speak about. They are actually substantively identical. They're only different in terms of the procedural mechanism that they entail. Both ballot measures deal with declaring a policy for the city and county of San Francisco to urge San Francisco's public schools to let kids take algebra by the 8th grade and to reform the math curriculum in order to prioritize excellence for students at all grade levels. I wanted to just take a few minutes to explain the background of why Supervisor Engardio chose to advance this ballot measure. Currently, San Francisco public school students must wait until 9th grade to take Algebra 1. Many groups from within the public school system have alerted us of the inequity and the failures of this algebra policy, because what happens is math-loving kids in San Francisco are punished. They're not able to take, by not being able to take algebra until high school, they are not given enough time to take the courses needed, in particular calculus, by the time they graduate from high school in order to qualify for STEM majors at the UCs and eventually STEM careers. So it hurts their college options. So the only way to avoid this outcome is students will pay to take Algebra 1 outside of public school before high school, and then pay again to take an exam that would then give them credit for that class so that they can enter 9th grade and take the next math course. It's interesting to note that most school districts in the Bay Area actually do offer algebra by the 8th grade. Some even let 7th graders take it. And San Francisco used to offer Algebra 1 in 8th grade before 2014. That policy was changed in order to attempt to address some inequities in math success rates for certain communities that have been historically marginalized. However, what the advocates have brought to our attention is that a recent study in May of this year concluded that this policy has not produced the intended outcomes, to the point that Superintendent Matt Wayne of the school district admitted that there have been poor outcomes for this math policy, and the district is willing to engage in a process to consider revising its math curriculum. It's been noted that the school district is not governed by the city and county of San Francisco. And while that is certainly correct, we believe that it is within the purview of our city supervisors to get involved in this issue, because the Board of Supervisors does appropriate funding to support our school district. For example, in 2004, through Proposition H, the city advanced the Public Education Enrichment Fund, which the voters approved, and this funding is renewed annually to support our school district. Most recently, in November of last year, you may recall, there was a charter amendment called Proposition G, which established the Student Success Fund. So funding from the city coffers is going towards our public schools, because I think it's obvious that the city has an interest in the success of our public schools. Supervisor Engardio is particularly concerned about this issue because, as he has mentioned, we have a tale of two school systems in San Francisco. We have private schools, which are growing, and public school enrollment in the meantime is declining. 1/4 of our kids attend private school compared to only 9% statewide. Algebra we're told, is a big factor when families decide to leave public schools when their child enters middle school. We believe that every resident of San Francisco is our constituent, including parents and students in public school and otherwise. And this ballot measure is a way to have their voices heard on this topic. The ballot measure, as I mentioned, is a declaration of policy, which is non-binding. A non-binding measure is appropriate in this case because of the lack of official jurisdiction over the school district. At this time, I would be happy to answer any questions or clarify any points that I've covered so far.
What would the length of this legislation be initially? Over what time span?
There is no time period associated with this policy. It would simply stand as a policy until something to the contrary is passed by the voters.
I agree with the premise, but I'd have to understand the penalties and fines a little bit more, just because it's contrary to and better, and they penalize.
I'm sorry, George. I don't know if it's my connection or yours, but you were breaking up a little bit, so I missed the last couple sentences.
None of us got it all.
Oh my goodness. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, and allow me to try to summarize. I believe you were concerned about penalties and fines. There are no penalties and fines called for, and it wouldn't be appropriate to have such punitive or enforcement measures in a declaration of policy. I'll read the language to you. The people of the city and county of San Francisco hereby declare it shall be the official policy of the city and county of San Francisco to urge the San Francisco Unified School District to offer Algebra 1 to students by the 8th grade. That is the key premise. And then there are bullet points that follow expressing support to the school district in developing their math curriculum, ensuring math instruction is student-centered. And one of the bullet points that appears there was urged by Supervisor Melgar, having to do with giving support to girls who have been historically underrepresented in STEM fields.
Well, I would say that having gone through school and not being allowed to take certain classes when I wanted to, I think it's always important for students to do whatever they want to do. So if they want to take the math, they should definitely have the math available. So I would support it just because of my experience not being allowed to take certain classes when I wanted to take them. I think students ought to be encouraged to do what they're interested in. So thank you.
Thank you. Exactly. This declaration of policy has to do with providing an option, not forcing anyone to take any particular class. But at this point, there is no option to take Algebra 1 in middle school.
Can you hear me?
Oh,
I can.
oh.
Okay, sorry about my connection. What would, if we were to support you, what would you want to see us do beyond endorsement?
Tell everyone you know to look into the issue. I encourage everyone to look into the issue. I'm not going to ask for you to just blindly follow. I think it's important for folks to understand why this ballot measure is being proposed. And it is definitely something that has been questioned by a lot of folks who know a lot more about math and a lot more about education than I do. There's a math professor by the name of Brian Conrad who has published several articles and studies on this topic. There are professors, especially from the African American community, who also support the idea of making sure this course is offered early enough. I believe the name of the professor is, the last name is Jelani. I'll have to find his full name for you. I'm happy to send follow-up information after this meeting. But look into the issue and learn about why it's been so important. And one of the reasons why I think we should all care about education, and I hope you would agree, is that public education is so critical to the function and the having a thriving city. We need families to be able to access a quality education for free. We need families to stay in San Francisco and not leave because they're not able to access courses like algebra or have success in our reading programs, which I believe is also under question right now. And we Supervisor Engardio believes strongly that without a strong public education system, we stand to lose a segment of our population that tends to invest, not only financially, but just but in terms of effort and energy, invest in the community, right? And stay long-term to ensure that we have a vibrant city.
Mary Harris has her hand up.
Hi, Mary.
Hi. Well, I'm more than likely to support this. But I was wondering, I know the Sunset is a large Asian population. Even my district has 50% now. Is this mostly supported and brought to the supervisor by the Asian community, or is it Black and brown and all ethnicities? Also, I just don't understand why the Board of Soups is getting involved in the Board of Education. Can't you just guys communicate? We have a commissioner I know in District 11, Alita Fisher. Why can't we just have it on the agenda at the Board of Education, have the parents go down there and have it enacted? I mean, it's just really logical that we offer as much as we can to our students and encourage that. I, never use, algebra in my everyday life, but other people will, and we want them to be successful in science and math and everything else. So I'm just wondering, because there's a lot of things that I would want the Board of Soups to work on, and this would not be my top thing. My top thing, well, never mind what my top things are, but I just wonder, what kind of communication do you have? Why does this have to be on the ballot?
Okay. I'm going to try to take your
I'm
questions.
sorry, I get too much at the time.
I believe your question was, are we hearing mainly from the Asian community on this? Certainly, because the Sunset is predominantly Asian, we have a lot of, the overwhelming number of Asian constituents who call in or write us about this topic are in favor of putting algebra back in the middle school curriculum. That's not to say that citywide there aren't other demographics that support this. I would have to look into the numbers and send that to you. I would be speaking out of turn if I were to answer, that question as to the rest of it.
I guess I wasn't thinking citywide. I was thinking, okay, I need to broaden that scope. Okay, go on.
And then as far as do we communicate with the school board? Yes, in fact, Supervisor Engardio and I met with the superintendent and his team before even introducing this measure. We were very encouraged to hear that the superintendent is actively putting together a committee to revisit the math curriculum just overall from K through 12, not solely focusing on algebra, but recognizing that algebra is kind of like a lodestar to, by that point, if that course isn't offered, it can have certain limiting consequences on the student. That being said, we have made our viewpoint clear, and we've encouraged the superintendent, and we said he has our support if he wants to push things in that direction. But it is up to him to conduct this reform process, you know, if I may call it that, on his own time and in his own way. And certainly we have communicated with school board members, not specifically Commissioner Fisher. However, you've just given me a great idea to perhaps reach out to her. But they certainly have the power to call a meeting about this or pass a resolution about this. And we are definitely in communication with some of the school board members, and we're hoping that that does take place. Meanwhile, you know, as far as the Board of Supervisors spending time on this, it's one hearing at the Rules Committee.
Mhm.
After that, it becomes an agenda item to be voted on by the full board, I believe a week later, if it gets elevated. So it's not a significant amount of time. It's such a simple measure that we don't anticipate a lot of discussion on it, although, you know, I may be wrong. And there are definitely other things that the board is working on and that Supervisor Engardio is working on that he's devoting a lot more time to. So your points are well taken. Thank you. And we will certainly continue our communications with Superintendent Wayne and the school board commissioners.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I think the supervisor's doing a great job in
Thank you.
totality.
Thank you. Are
Yeah.
there any other questions?
It doesn't look like it. It's pretty straightforward.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to drop off and enjoy my spooky Friday the 13th and hope that nothing bad happens to me. I wish all of you a good rest of your evening. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Tita.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.